weekly video series of e-commerce. My name is Teemu Tolonen. I'm coming from Woolman agency. We're the biggest Shopify Plus provider in the European Union, and I have my colleague Mikko Rekola with me here in this episode.
Hello, greetings from Helsinki, Finland. I have background in direct consumer e-commerce and really love it. 11 years in e-commerce, so helping our companies and clients to grow.
Perfect. Mikko, we've helped probably 200 customers over the 3 years with Woolman that we work with Shopify, and now we're seeing a really interesting times due to the corona. I think 80% of our customers are doing really well at the moment. They're getting more business online. That might be totally new business. Some of their business might be actually switching or coming from retail to online. How do you see the last weeks or last 2 months? What's special in e-commerce at the moment?
Excellent question, Teemu. First of all, I would like to point out that e-commerce is the winner of this new world. So people are shopping online, they are spending much more time online. And for a merchant, nothing would be better than running your store on Shopify or Shopify Plus, where you can actually focus on the data and focus on your growth.
I agree. And what I think is going to happen is that there were categories that hadn't been thriving in e-commerce before. So food, groceries, at least in the Nordics, they were kind of perceived to be too expensive, the shipping and the logistics. And now we're seeing double-digit or triple-digit growth in those categories. So what do you think? Are these going to be new routines after the crisis is over, and are we going to be living in a new world after the summer?
We are going to live in a new world. So there definitely are certain categories that are huge winners by this kind of time. So as you mentioned, grocery stores, online pharmacies, they are nailing it. However, I would see that some of those clients will get back to the brick and mortar stores after this situation is over. But in a much broader perspective, quite many start to utilize the possibility to order stuff online, getting that to your home door. So they will understand the value this kind of business model will give. And it's becoming the new sort of norm for the majority of us.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is that it seems that at least on short terms, most of our customers are winning. And I think the biggest difficulties in some categories have been in fashion. It has been in jewelry, kind of I wouldn't call them necessities. They're kind of categories where the consumption might be perceived to be kind of unnecessary on many levels, and then it's more relating to the brand. It's more shopping with the feeling. What do you think the fashion brands, it doesn't matter if it's a big company or a small company, how do you think that they will overcome the situation?
I will point this out very directly. There is still demand for fashion, but the thing to do fashion is that you should create a brand that actually speaks to the person. You have to have that story. Otherwise, if you're selling just cold items, then you are in a competition that isn't that even, and you will not know what will happen in the very future. So if you're creating a fashion brand or updating your brand, you should be able to transform your story online. And in that way, when you have the emotional connection with the client, then it's much more easy to scale the business up and make sure that you are somewhat special. So those of our clients who have a story, who are telling something, who are very appealing when it comes to emotions, are doing much better than the ones that are just using their Shopify store to sell items. The time of just selling items is over. Let me repeat myself.
I agree that's a good answer. I have fishing shop, a fly fishing shop that I'm running with Shopify at the moment, and it seems that the customers are really heavily using the content at the moment. So blog posts, videos, anything that they can kind of consume online as any kind of content seems to be working really well at the moment. I was really skeptic what's going to happen with the fishing business, because there's a lot of travel restrictions. So I can't go fishing to Iceland or Russia or anywhere kind of the nicer places. But at least now it seems that still the fishermen, the anglers, they're optimistic. They're waiting that there's going to be a new season either this year or year after. So they're kind of still making the purchases. They're even buying the gear that they only use for fishing, not the apparel that they can use in the offices and on their spare time. And I think it's a good message that if you are building a brand, if you're building the content, you still have a really good chance to connect with the customer at the moment, and of course get the positive cash flow, which is crucial for any business at the moment.
Definitely. And wanting to point out, when it comes to fashion businesses, you have to be agile. So the word has sort of changed. If you look at what were in the discussions, what were the hot topics 3 to 6 months ago, people were talking about omni-channel, and the thing that you actually need to have those brick and mortar stores to grow, and they need to support your growth. You will add an additional dimension by those. However, in this kind of situation, nobody keeps talking about omnichannel anymore. I'm not saying that omnichannel is dead. I'm just pointing out that you can actually sell fashion directly to consumers online. And if you look at what these classic catalog businesses have done in the 80s, in the 90s in US, they had no brick and mortar stores, and they were growing super fast. And now when you have the technology with Shopify and its apps, it's much more easy to run a catalog business, start it from zero or even scale it up to another level. So actually e-commerce is just like a revamped catalog sales business where people used to order stuff by mail or phone.
Perfect. I'm going to take you up on that comment. So the first episode and the title for the first episode that we're running now as we speak is that how to sell the first million in e-commerce. The series is called the Shopify Kryptonite. So I think we need to talk about some mistakes, what not to do, and then focus on the things that what we should do to actually sell the first million in Shopify or on Shopify. You mentioned the catalog selling, so I don't know how we should actually start the conversation, but what do you think? Should we, if I want to be selling 1 million online on Shopify, should I be focusing on the products, or should I be actually focusing on building a brand, or are those two things actually excluding each other, or can we do both in a year?
They are not excluding each other. However, if you are willing to go for that beautiful million, then I would recommend you focusing on the brand and having much more narrow product portfolio. So we have lots of cases that are selling only 5 to 10 or 12 products, and they can do such sales figures with those. So actually trying to find out that what is the spot where I want to hit and what are the needs to fulfill from my clients. I would say that this catalog business is interesting as such because they have all the structure in there. They understand how to deliver goods, how to measure demand, how to use data. They used that already 20 to 30 years ago. So you can take lessons from there. But if I would build my new direct-to-consumer business, I would do a brand. I would do a brand with very narrow product portfolio, which then I can extend.
How would you actually start testing about the products?
Excellent question.
If you go with 10 or 15 products, how you can actually define, is there a demand for those products?
Right. I wouldn't have a warehouse full of stock. I would do so-called smokescreen testing, that you will have a prototype or just a description and a picture of your product. So most likely known as like MVP, which is like, it could be just a concept. And then you can advertise that to existing people. And then you try to measure demand. Is there demand? Isn't there demand? And then also super important to measure that what kind of feedback do I receive. I have to have like one-on-one discussions with potential clients, not just that are they purchasing or not.
So you would probably play around with some kind of pre-order campaign, don't have any stock. What about production? This is going to be a really specific question, but are you relying still on China, or would you do something really high-end natural cosmetics made in European Union? Or what do you think? What would you? Yeah.
Right. At this current state, it's somewhat complicated because, as you know, we have like logistics issues. I wouldn't anymore trust on like this drop shipping thing that, hey, let's take that cheap stuff from China. I see that that's sort of over. It's not over in all of the categories, but if you are really willing to create a brand, then you would definitely need to focus on the production, make sure that the quality is there. Even though the quality is there, you are still able to get like somewhat good margins if you do it right. And then, of course, taking that into consideration when doing pricing. And again, with pricing, you should do testing. So everything when it comes to like launching a brand, taking the first steps, you are able to A/B test things as you should.
That's a good answer. I did some research in the morning before we started recording this episode, and this is in Finnish, but you'll probably get the idea. So this is drop shipping as a Google keyword trend. So it's been pretty high up throughout the year, and now within the past month or past weeks, drop shipping is really increasing. As I think people who are working in e-commerce, or people who might be actually thinking about that if they're going to have a job or not after the crisis is over, or during the crisis, they're kind of seeing e-commerce as a chance, which it is. But personally, I believe that as drop shipping per se, as it has been known, kind of building no brand, shipping low value goods from China, relying heavily on the paid ads, I don't think that we're going to see that long. I really agree on what you said, that building a brand should be where we should actually start. We can start with simple products, and I'm showing one example. It's a really, really cool customer case that we've done with Woolman. So one idea that I could actually throw into the conversation is that if you are in a niche, you belong to a customer group. I don't know if it's going to be Vikings, is it going to be fly fishing, is it going to be knitting sweaters at your home? If you yourself belong to some kind of these niche groups, and you know how the customers, where they are, what they potentially like, I think that's going to be a really, really key thing, how you can actually start to, thanks for quitting my share screen. So I think that's going to be one of the best advice that I can give for anyone who's going to open up their new e-commerce business is that the better you know your customers, the bigger chance you have actually in succeeding. All the other things that you can hustle your way around to, you can learn them. But if you don't know your customer, if you don't have an idea where you can start actually looking for the customers, you're going to be in big trouble. And with that note, if we now have the brand idea, we have maybe the product idea. Mikko, this is your expertise. How we're going to start working with the customer acquisition for a totally new business?
Yes. Should we talk about growth?
Yes.
So the topic is that the biggest hurdle every new direct-to-consumer e-commerce brand has, that they don't actually understand the importance of customer acquisition. So if you create a brand, you need to get clients. You need to get valuable clients who don't just purchase once from your store, who return, who bring the value, and who then even add like word of mouth, tell about the brand and the items to their families, friends, and so on. So you have to make sure that to generate growth, you need to have lots of traffic, and not just any traffic, but top quality traffic. And traffic in e-commerce, as you know, might be like by easiest divided to half. It's like paid acquisition and organic acquisition. And in paid acquisition, most of direct-to-consumer businesses rely on digital channels such as Facebook, Google, Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, Instagram, and so on. And then you can have like organic traffic as well, which is usually seen as like search traffic from Google, Bing, and so on. And also possible like organic growth hacking you are doing on some forums or Facebook groups or whatever. So whatever it takes to get people to visit your store. And now the main difficulty is that if you have your background in brick and mortar world, there you rely on the fact that you don't actually need that many visitors. If you get like 5 visitors inside the store, you're able to get possibly even 2 or 3 of them to purchase. But if you get 5 to your e-commerce, most likely is that no one will purchase. So you will need tons of traffic. So first of all, you need to have the mass, but not only the mass, you will need to have quality. And my recommendation here is that if you haven't done this before, take some help, ask for help. Take a person with you who has walked this path in the past. And the thing that hurts me the most is that I see lots of so-called like digital advertising agencies and gurus who have never done e-commerce. E-commerce is different. You need to understand also not just like finding potential clients, but understanding that how do they move inside the shop? What are the customer journeys? Steps and how to do it so that the customer acquisition costs aren't sky high.
Perfect. I think we've all read about the stories where people have been able to build a successful e-commerce business actually without spending any money on ads. There might be social media influencers that have 50,000 followers on Instagram or Facebook, or they might be really active on some Facebook group. What do you think? Is it a viable idea that you can actually start a business, sell the first million actually without spending any money on the ads, or is it something we should actually see as a good base for the start? So if you have the 50K followers, you can use them to get some sales, but you need paid ads to actually grow the business and scale the business.
Yeah, Teemu, let's be honest. It would be foolish not to do paid acquisition.
Yeah.
Back in the past, when these like digital platforms were working in a different way, it was much more easy to do organic growth. I've done a couple of those cases. I know some of those success stories. But now when they have changed the whole ways those platforms work, it's much more difficult to gain that organic growth. And after talking to many of the leading direct-to-consumer brands, not only in Europe, but also in the States, they are relying on paid acquisition. And the issue then with paid acquisition is that the costs are going up. At the current moment, they are going down, but that's a like temporary situation. After the virus situation will go back to normal, the costs are most likely going to climb again. And then the thing is that you really need to stand out with your ads. But my recommendation is that you need to do paid acquisition, which means most likely paid digital marketing with very targeted audiences, and like the actual storytelling included also in your ads. So you can tell stories inside your ads, and they should be mixed and matched so that you are not presenting just like cold products there. You have to have the brand and the story included.
Yeah. So we're going to need to have some money that we can actually invest into the business. That's, I think, again, one of the questions we have, or we can read about on the online, is that can you actually start drop shipping? You just maybe have a $50 or €50 budget that you spend only on the ads, and then the profit that is going to be generated, you're going to put it to scale the ads or actually then buy inventory. I think it might be doable. It's going to be really, really hard. So if you're actually looking to go into e-commerce, that's going to be the first business that you're going to open up. You should have some investment that you put into the business. And I don't think we can give any kind of exact figure. Is it going to be 5,000, 15 or 25,000? But you can do some calculations. Even if you would start with the smoke screen testing, doing pre-order campaigns, you're going to be pretty soon in a situation that if you're going to get the sales, you're going to need to have inventory. Am I right?
Yes, you're getting there.
Yeah.
But the thing is that definitely like inventory is important, and everything that is like behind your business is important. But I just want to speak from my own experience. Most difficult thing is to get those clients in. That's the difficult part. If you can handle that, then you can always take a closer look at what's going on with my sales, what's my warehouse, what kind of inventory do I need to have, and that you can always like figure out after looking at the data. With the Shopify, the beauty is that you have excellent Shopify analytics. You can connect that to Google Analytics. You can use all the custom dashboards if needed. It's easy to map data. It's easy to understand what's going on with my business, how to do better, which of my products are selling the best, and do even like all sort of estimates what's going on with the demand.
Perfect. If we actually, one small thing about the marketing, and then we can actually talk more about the building the store and how we handle the operations. I think a lot of traditional businesses are thinking in a way about marketing that they're going to invest 10% of the turnover or 5% of the turnover into marketing. That's not valid anymore. So we're basically talking about customer lifetime value, or the cost of customer acquisition. So how would you guide somebody who's going into e-commerce, that how they should actually think about the budget for the marketing and the spend?
Right. I want to adjust one thing first. When we are talking about marketing in direct consumer environment, we are actually talking about sales, online sales, like you would have your sales guy working for you. So you need to generate growth, you need to generate cash flow. And two things that you need to consider, as you mentioned, are like customer acquisition cost. The very basic thing, when you add all of your marketing expenses, divide them by the amount of new clients, then you get the price of one new client for you. And then starts the game that, does this make sense? Do I have good enough margins? And therefore, if I would create a brand now, I would definitely sell items that are mid-price or even expensive compared to cheap items, because with cheap items you need to have like so crazy volumes that your customer acquisition is somewhat troublesome. So you need to know how much money you invest in every single new client. And here I want to point out a crucial difference between Europe and US. So in Europe, the majority of direct-to-consumer businesses can make it happen so that between like first to third purchase, they are already making profit with the client. However, in the US, the payback time can be much, much longer. It can be almost a year or over a year. So they are relying on the fact that that single client would return and purchase several times again, and a certain percentage of clients would then like always return for the next round. And that's somewhat of a more tough game. So benefit here goes for European brands and European market, because there is less competition when it comes to paid acquisition. So that's definitely a big difference here. And then talking about customer lifetime value, the thing is that you should try to estimate how much money does one person bring in my shop. So all of your clients aren't the same value. You will have much more valuable clients, and then you should focus nurturing and taking care of them instead of taking care of those clients that will order once a low amount of purchase, which doesn't actually bring you any greater value. So as a merchant in online commerce, you have much better grip on the situation, and you can monitor those figures. And your task, as you're starting with that, is to make sure that you understand these two basic figures. If you don't, again, the same, ask for help.
I love the expression that marketing is sales. I'm a sales guy. I think that's one of the reasons why I really love e-commerce, is that almost all of the things that you do, we can measure. Shopify has some great tools in the analytics, great reporting, so we can actually see exactly what's happening in the store. And being said, I think there are going to be some marketing we need to do to actually create the brand awareness. We can't, in those cases, probably at least on short term, calculate exactly what the return on the ad spend is. But I really agree on the fact that we need to do things that are actually generating sales, and we need to make it in a way that we can measure exactly everything we can do. What do you think if we kind of think a trial and error type of exercise, that how much data, how many orders, or how much of time we actually need to spend in the e-commerce, that we're going to see some parts of success, or we're going to see that this is a viable business that we can scale?
Right. After seeing like tons of these cases in different markets, I would say that you need to invest at least like 3 to 5 months. After that period, you will have kind of a good understanding what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, how should I adjust my both my like website, my story, my items, and then you start to receive also data from purchasing clients.
Yeah.
So the biggest hurdle here is that people usually make too hasty decisions. They make decisions based on days or weeks. You should look this as a marathon, however, a agile marathon. So you should be able to do decisions and changes to your store all the time. Same goes with your story and your acquisition. So nothing is too precious to be held back. You have to be able to do some changes, adjustments, and also reconsider some decisions you have probably made before. So even looking at our best brands, they have evolved during the time, and their first year, second, third have included some pretty rough changes.
That's a good point. I think as an e-commerce merchant, one negative feedback when you're kind of starting the business is something you take really personally. So you might kind of forget all the data you have that's stating that it's not true. So one bad customer feedback or two might be enough that you actually do hasty decisions. So I think the 3 to 5 months is a good time that you can actually hustle, do anything you can and see what works, what doesn't, and then do kind of a summary that how should I proceed with the business.
Right.
I think we've now had a good discussion about the customer acquisition, and then we're going to be running out of time on the first episode. So let's touch base also on the when I'm going to be building a Shopify store, about the design, about the applications. Are there something we should absolutely do? Is there something we absolutely shouldn't do when we're going to launch a new shop? What do you think?
Well, yeah, when launching a new shop, don't aim for perfect. I would say that like 80% is close enough, and then just like keep evolving and doing changes in there. And when it comes to like the time windows, don't push yourself too much. Just try to get it up and running, and then just like replan. Have that sort of like timeline in your mind, what I'm supposed to do during first 6 months or 12 months. When it comes to the whole like app discussion, don't trust on data that is available on the internet. Don't read the forums. Trust a partner that actually knows. I've seen lots of bad things happening with the apps. The apps are actually like the worst thing where you can somewhat even like destroy your beautiful Shopify store. Don't get me wrong. Apps are wonderful. Apps help our merchants to grow and succeed. But there are lots of differences between the apps, and you have to consider only taking those apps on board that will help you in the phase number 1. Then when you will have sales and growth, you will sort of like need different kind of apps. So rather less and quality than just like a huge amount of apps. If I ought to pick a couple of apps myself, I would definitely take a screen recording app such as Lucky Orange as one. Then maybe something to do with the warehouse and stock. There are some options in there. And because I'm a data guy, I need to understand what's going on. Then I want to use some growth or analytics apps that help me to really understand what's behind those figures.
Yeah, can't disagree on those comments. I think if you take any of the themes you have in the Shopify theme store, you do that one well, meaning that you yourself aim for really high quality in the product pictures, do really good copywriting on the product text, on the collections. I think that's going to be enough. And then if you handle the customer acquisition on a well way, you're not going to you don't need anything to actually get the page load quicker. You don't need any magic application to do some upselling or cross-selling. I think there's a couple of things that are really couple applications that I love in my shop, and those are Yotpo for the product reviews. I think from the day that I started Shopify shop myself, Yotpo has been one really good application. It's really easy, so it's going to send the automated review requests to all of the purchasing customers. I can display those in the on the pages. I think from the sales psychology view, the product reviews are the first kind of key things you should have as an kind of external source on the page, and then Klaviyo email marketing, Klaviyo Omnisend. But I think the email marketing we should actually discuss about it quickly. I think it's going to kind of come into play when you have a list of 500 or 1,000 people. But I think we should kind of start working to actually get a list from the start.
Yes.
So what do you think?
It's not like somewhat like included in the phase number 1. I would put it on like phase number 2 or 3 if considering that there are like 6 to 7 phases how to do the first million. It's important. It needs to be taken into consideration, and immediately when you start to generate like customer database, that should be utilized both in paid acquisition and then in like email marketing and email automation. But personally, one thing that annoys me are those like email pop-ups. If you do them with style. Make sure that they are not like launching on every single page of yours, and then double check that they are working well on your mobile theme, because it's all about the customer experience, the journey on your page. If that is like a such journey that keeps you irritated, makes you want to go away, then you have actually destroyed your whole brand there just in a couple of seconds.
I agree. I have a pop-up on my page. I think I need to go and recheck it that it's working well on mobile. It has been at least getting new subscribers. I'm offering the basic minus 10% to anyone who's doing this subscription. But I agree that's why I actually mentioned the upsell and resell applications. I think if you're opening up a new shop, the first thing you have to do is to build the trust with the customer, and then building the trust doesn't come with too pushing pop-ups and then upsells all the time. I think it comes with a good dialogue, that when somebody comes to the shop, they see good quality content, good product pictures. It's easy to navigate there, and then if they don't do the purchase on their first visit to the shop, they're gonna see quality remarketing and kind of something more information about the brand. So kind of getting the connection, and I think the biggest D2C cases that you probably know really well, like Allbirds, MVNT. I think those, if you have a look on the Allbirds design, I think it's rather simple. It's almost minimalistic, but the pictures they have, kind of all the elements that they have, they're really sharp. It's really easy to actually come into the shop and then go and have a look on the shoes. And they're, like you said, I think they have the 15 or 20 different. Well, they've expanded their selection now, but these are the companies that have built a plus 100 million business online in few years, and I think they've done it by building a brand.
Definitely.
By doing the basic things exceptionally well. If you go into Allbirds site, you're not going to get pop-ups in it. You're not going to get upsell recommendations all the time. You're gonna get a nice and easy customer experience, and you're gonna see their values. So I think the values and the way how people can relate into those values might be one of the key components.
Definitely, it has to be a smooth experience. And then, while talking about Allbirds here in the end, you need to create a brand with some kind of a twist. So if you are ought to pick a product, don't do the basic product. Do the product with something that will stick in people's mind. Different material, different view, different story, different kind of manufacturing. Something that is a thing that people can remember. That's the way to stick in people's mind, and that then also helps with your word of mouth, because all of your happy clients should be able to tell about you to 7 to 15 of their friends. And if you are doing the average product, then it's much more difficult than you do a product with a cool or new twist.
Absolutely. I think we're going to be running out of time in a few minutes, but what I see people neglecting sometimes is that when we're talking about e-commerce, we only talk about the digital aspects of things. And if you're selling physical goods, which most of companies are, I think we need to also kind of think about the customer experience on the shipping and warehousing and the packaging side as well. There are great companies who offer 3PL warehousing and shipping as a service. So if you don't have the means and you don't have a space where you can store sneakers or whatever you're gonna sell, there's great 3PL companies that can do those as a service. And a few small things that I've actually figured from my own business is that my customers love decals, stickers. So if they get stickers in their shipments, they're going to be thrilled. And now finally, after being 3 years in business, I have customized shipping packages in my business, which has been a success. So like they're made from recycled cardboard, and they have nice logos, the fish pictures, the fly pictures. So what I've started to see is that those kind of small details seem to be really, really important when we are talking about the whole customer experience.
Definitely. Definitely. And it's like super important that I love e-commerce. The only issue with e-commerce is that you won't be able to interact with the client. However, the client will be able to interact with your service and products. So it's difficult to understand when you don't actually see a client's eye. That what are they feeling? Are they smiling? Are they happy? Are they not happy? What's the thing? That's something that you currently can't see in e-commerce. But the unboxing experience is one where I wouldn't save money. So you should make that as a joy, make that as something special, and really pay some attention to that, because that will then most likely help to make your brand even greater. That's something that people, if they love it, they will share it with their friends, with their family, and they will be very happy about it. And it's been even done like studies that you have the exactly same item shipped, but how it's delivered, how the story is told, then their customer satisfaction is a completely different, on a different scale when you really put some attention in there.
It is, and I think you can even affect the pricing of the product with a really good shipping package. So you can ask the extra €5 or €10 if you have a really good quality package. And I think the customers, when they're making dozens of orders from different online stores, they're gonna remember those that actually have delivered the best experience when they're opening up the packages at their homes. It might not even be the experience that they had when they did shopping online, because on some cases that's going to be over in 35 seconds. The order is in and they forget about it until they actually get DHL or UPS or some of the local shipping agencies delivering the package to your home, and then they see that, whoa, this is a really black and shiny box, and you have a personal note from whoever packed it to address to you personally. I think that might be one. I think it's time to do a recap. So it's been the first episode of Shopify Kryptonite, the official Woolman show. We're going to do this on a weekly basis. We had a good discussion how you're going to do the first million in e-commerce. So if we do a recap, Mikko, so if we're gonna do 1 million on the first year or on the second year, so we're gonna be building a brand. We're gonna do some lean and agile testing, so smoke screen testing with the products, not even have them necessarily in our warehouse, so we don't have to spend the money on the product. We can spend the money on the ads. What else? What are the bullet points we should give our viewers from the first episode?
Right, and when it comes to like growth, you need to invest money in paid acquisition, paid channels like Facebook, Instagram, Google. Prepare for that. Have a good chunk of money in there. Then remember to calculate the cost of acquisition, customer lifetime value, and the basic understanding that what does happen in my customer journey. That's something that you need to rethink all the time. Try to understand, map and monitor what's going on in your customer journey, because that will then be the matter of life and death when it comes to your success as a brand. And then also pointing out the fact that when you get your first clients, be in touch with them, call your clients. Try to ask from your purchasing clients what I can do better, how I can develop. Don't be shy. Have that interaction, because that helps you to reach that next level. And after you have been able to get your first clients in, then be also very agile with testing and brave enough to change things, both in your marketing but also on your shop. So if you look at these top direct consumer brands or our biggest clients, they are doing very bold testing, which is strongly recommended. And then maybe as a business perspective, next steps would then be to hire a team, get more people around you. Most likely, it's very recommended to have at least one or a couple of persons in discussion, because that helps you to really understand your point of view and your business. And lastly, don't fall in love with your brand. So you can like your brand, but don't get too emotional with it, especially during the first year. So that usually ruins things. Try to look at it from a bird's eye perspective. Try to understand what people are saying about it. Try to be very humble and honest about it. That will help you actually to extend your sales and reach new levels when it comes to sales.
And brands, they can evolve. So we can start to be gray, we can be brown after a year or two. We can go from white to black. That's usually going to kill the brand, but we can evolve. We can develop with the customers. we can develop with the products. I think if you want to hit the first million in sales, you have to go and start on something. You have to go and take the chance. You have to invest at least your time, probably a bit of money, and you have to have the mentality that if you don't know, you're going to figure it out, or you're going to have a good partner who's going to do the first million in sales with you. Thank you. This was a really fun conversation. It's always good that you're learning new things from your colleagues, even though we've already worked a couple of years together. If you have any questions, you can type them in the comments here below in YouTube, or if you want to get some help from Woolman team, then look us up from woolman.co or woolman.io and email us. We're happy to do customer acquisition, or we're happy to set up a new Shopify shop for you. But stay tuned. We're going to do this on a weekly basis. And if you have any questions, just shoot. We're here to help.
Take care. Good luck with your business. Thank you.